Shaq's friend, Dell Dog, the alleged leader of the Main Street Mafia Crips gang, is accused of directing 6 other alleged gang members to kidnap, beat, and rob this man, Robert Ross, who claimed to have a sex tape starring Shaquille O'Neal.
Yeah, Dell Dog coming in here. Definitely hottest tray out on the street. You know, we gonna see a little let him get out in a little hot contest. Like that rear end, don't you? Raising up the funk, baby. Mafia for life. Yeah.
How we doing it? The liars. Too blessed to be stressed. I can't put nothing else.
From a man to a man, when they kicked your door in over you being the gossip little troll you are, talking to Stutterbox and talking to Dell Dog, you dropping the low on Stutterbox saying that he live across.
This call is from a federal prison.
Dell Dog, rest in peace. You know what I mean? Shout out to Double D's, man. You know what I'm saying? Man, Street Mafia.
Los Angeles, 2008. A man steps out of a parking lot on what should have been an ordinary night. Streetlights glance off a van that had been idling too long. Then, the doors open, 2 figures move fast, and he's gone. For hours, one question repeats. Where's the tape? By sunrise, he identifies himself as a young promoter moving between studios and athlete circles. He says the men who approached him were connected to a well-known neighborhood organization, and what they sought wasn't cash or contraband. It was a tape rumored to be linked to a future NBA Hall of Famer, as well as the star player of the city's basketball team. But here's the thing. This dispute didn't initially start with a tape. It started with money, a music deal the promoter helped arrange for a chart-topping R&B singer. And when he felt he wasn't compensated enough, the rumor of the tape entered the conversation. On its face, it looked like something written a few blocks away, a script from down the street in Hollywood, the kind that wins Oscars and Emmys. Except this wasn't fiction. It was Los Angeles in real time, where celebrity, culture, and community share the same map. The promoter stood at a junction, one foot in music, one in the neighborhood, linked to athletes, executives, and artists who moved through the same rooms for different reasons. What had all the makings of a front-page tabloid headline started with contracts mixed with conversations and business that turned personal. And when the smoke cleared on the situation, at the center of it all was a notorious shot caller from Los Angeles by the name of Dell Dog.
Lord forgive me for this trap shit. Sergeant Smack making backflip. Telly Hank did with the action. With the vital speaking Spanish. Frank Matthews how I vanish. Poof. Came back like I'm King Tut. Gold BBS is on a beamer. When Fat Cat was 10 queens up. Ball off the profit, not the re-up. Fly like Puerto Rican Jesus. Uptown like I'm Baby May. Just caught a touchdown from the Bay.
Almost since its inception, it seems like South LA has always been a city within a city, a place where lines between neighborhoods could feel like borders. Along Main Street, between Broadway and San Pedro, local identity would build its own order. In the 1970s, residents were organized around protection and familiarity, creating networks that mix structure with pride. And out of that climate grew what would later become known as the Main Street Mafia Crips, a name tied to both geography and purpose. 2 main subsets would take root: 84 Main Street, with territory around 84th and Main, and 98th Main Street, with their territory allegedly being from 98th to 104th Street. And as generations changed, many younger gang members across Los Angeles began moving on their own accord, drifting away from the structure and hierarchy that once defined their sets. But some neighborhoods still valued organization enough to keep it alive.
He's talking about this big time dude that's no longer with us that had a lot of respect and control over their Main Street. Because they are the Mafia's town, where, I mean, they have like a hierarchy. But most LA gangs, those little youngsters don't give a. They'd be like, what, nigga? You say what? Nigga? Okay, whatever, big OG. Take your broke ass. They don't give a crap.
Main Street's discipline would be a product of continuity, a culture where leadership still mattered. Every member knew who they answered to and what was expected in return. And it was said to be that consistency that would give the neighborhood stability that many others would lose over time. Hierarchy would become a habit, a quiet system that kept minor disputes contained, where other sets changed with every generation. Main Street's foundation held firm. It was a structure rooted in tradition and enforced by respect.
But Main Street Mafia, I mean, I done heard stories from replicas when they were doing all those, they were robbing arm trucks. They were big in the marijuana game, but they also used to take down armored trucks, was robbing them like crazy. And I done heard dudes tell me where Dell Dog had a pool table. The niggas would just walk in there, drop off a percentage of their lick, and walk out. Don't even say nothing to him. Just drop off money on top of the pool table.
The Main Street Mafia had aligned under the broader Mafia Crips umbrella, alongside Fudge Town, Blue Gate, and 99 Watts. Each set controlled its own territory, but shared loose alliances and identifiers. Main Street and 99 Watts were both known for combining blue with touches of yellow or gold, a subtle marker of affiliation, though that practice wasn't universal amongst all Mafia Crip sets. Their reach stretched through South Los Angeles from 84th to 104th, touching corridors near Broadway and San Pedro, where boundaries often shifted but loyalties remained constant. And by the 1990s and the 2000s, that same structure that kept their neighborhood organized began shaping how members appeared within the community, showing up at local gatherings and neighborhood events. For many in South Los Angeles, Main Street's consistency became kind of a local trademark, one that stood apart from the anarchy surrounding it. That foundation of discipline would come to define the men who led it.
I didn't know him like that, but Dell Dog was a very influential person in the Crip gang in LA, and he got murdered over in my cousin them hood, and a lot of guys thought that they had something to do with it. 11 Deuce Broadway. He had a Rolls Royce, a bad Rolls Royce, and somebody murked the man. But he was a definite pillar in the Crip community. He's from Main Street Mafia.
Leadership on Main Street had been defined by restraint. Those who brought order when others reacted earned lasting respect. Residents remembered the man who actually held things together quietly and consistently, while the set's influence spread across blocks and generations. A name would circulate through the city of someone whose guidance mattered. And by the time 2008 would come around, the name Dell Dog would be one of the few still tied to the order that Main Street had built.
When I first came to Miami, Pat called me and said, we want to do a little ceremony for you. So I figured there was going to be a ceremony with about 100, 200 people. But as I pulled up in the 18-wheeler, I saw it was like, I want to say about 15,000 people like that. It made me feel like a mini parade. I was like, wow, these people know of what I can do. They know of what I can bring. So when I walked up and I was walking through the crowd, I got kind of butterflies, got kind of jitters. So that's why I made the statement, I will bring a championship to Miami. Remember this, 'cause I'm gonna bring a championship to Miami, I promise.
The major headline around the league tonight, the Los Angeles Lakers and Miami Heat have agreed to a trade that will send Shaquille O'Neal, one of the greatest big men of all time, to sunny South Florida.
When I first came to Miami, Pat called me and said, we want to do a little ceremony for you. So I figured there was going to be a ceremony with about 100, 200 people. But as I pulled up in the 18-wheeler, I saw it was like, I want to say about 15,000 people like that. It made me feel like a mini parade. I was like, wow, these people know of what I can do. They know of what I can bring. So when I walked up and I was walking through the crowd, I got kind of butterflies, I got kind of jitters. So that's why I made the statement, I will bring a championship to Miami. Remember this, 'cause I'm going to bring a championship to Miami, I promise.
The major headline around the league tonight, the Los Angeles Lakers and Miami Heat have agreed to a trade that will send Shaquille O'Neal, one of the greatest big men of all time, to sunny South Florida.
In 2004, Los Angeles lost its center, literally and figuratively. When Shaquille O'Neal was traded to the Miami Heat, it ended one of basketball's greatest runs. But even after he left the Lakers, his presence lingered in the city. His name, his investments, and his connections. And by 2008, those ties would resurface in a story that had nothing to do with championships. It began quietly, not in a locker room, but a recording studio, with a business deal that crossed from entertainment into the streets. Very similar to now, during the mid-2000s, Los Angeles lived two different realities. One side with the bright lights of Hollywood, red carpets, hit records, and championship banners. But on the other was the culture that gave the city its edge. The street element that kept fame grounded in authenticity. That line blurred when a business venture joined both worlds. An R&B singer at the height of his visibility began working with one of basketball's biggest names on an independent project. Reports later confirmed that roughly $1.5 million was invested into it. Allegedly, at the center of that arrangement was a man named Robert Scudderbox Ross, a promoter who could make introductions others couldn't, moving comfortably between artists, athletes, executives, and the streets.
Is it true that Shaq invested in your music career?
Yeah. He gave us, I think, 1.5 million for Sexy Can I.
Wow.
He gave us 1.5 for the Sexy Can I project, which was an All I Feel project. And Sexy Can I was the record to lead off. It sold 8 million copies. We recouped the number back for Shaq in, I don't know, 5 months, 6 months. And everything else has been profitable since. So shout out to Shaq. Thank you. If you look at the Sexy Can I video, you see Shaq in the video.
Right.
He's the one with the camera. He's going around, I'm saying, let me do things from the front and then let me have a little bit of time on the back end. And then, and he actually got the camera and did the rest for Sexy Can I.
How did you convince Shaq? Shaq is a very shrewd businessman. He owns a lot of ish.
Yeah.
So how did you convince him, like, bro, this is a great this is what I need. I'm gonna get you your money back, but this is gonna be a big project. How does Ray J pitch Shaq? Not Shaq the businessman.
Well, and with Shaq, you always have really smart people around you. So Money Mark, who is Shaq's partner in this deal, he's the one that told Shaq about this. And this was actually the first deal for WAC 100 to ever even be in the game. So this was his first introduction into the game as well from my end. And so Money Mark, Whack 100, we had another partner, and then Shaq. And it was a hell of a deal.
What would start as a minor business dispute would spiral into something much larger. When money would go unaccounted for, communication would break down, and frustrations would spread across circles that didn't normally connect. In interviews that followed, Ray J would recall the arrangement, mentioning Shaq, his business partner, and another guy who helped connect everything behind the scenes, with that other guy supposedly being Robert Scudderbox Ross, the man quietly navigating between both sides as the deal began to unravel. And then came the rumor, a recording said to be connected to the wife of a future NBA Hall of Famer and the star player once tied to Los Angeles' biggest stage. No one had seen it. No one can prove it existed. But in 2008, a city built on celebrity and speculation didn't need proof, only a story. And this one was about to move from the studio to the headlines.
Is Shaquille O'Neal at the center of a sex tape scandal? Only on 5 tonight, the attorney for a man allegedly linked to the case is speaking out. His client is one of several men accused of kidnapping and beating a man believed to possess a tape that reportedly shows Shaq with women.
KHLA's Carolyn Costello, she is live in downtown LA with the exclusive interview. Carolyn.
Mary Beth, Micah, this alleged incident happened all the way back in 2008, allegedly on Grammy night. But a preliminary hearing for this case just started on Friday. That is why all of this information is now suddenly coming out. The defense attorney we spoke to tonight says he doesn't believe prosecutors have very much evidence, at least not at this point. But this investigation is still very much ongoing. We spoke with this defense attorney tonight. He is representing one of 7 gang members who, according to prosecutors, beat up a man who says he has a tape showing Shaquille O'Neal having sex with women other than his wife. This tape allegedly taken at his home on some sort of a camera. At this point, this man is saying that sex tape doesn't exist. It has been erased. We don't know if it ever really did exist. At this point, Shaquille O'Neal not charged in this case, but we got a letter tonight from the LA County Sheriff's Department to a judge asking that judge to be lenient on Ross, who is in jail right now on drug trafficking charges, asking him to be lenient on him for his cooperation, saying his life might be in jeopardy because of this case. And that detective from the LA County Sheriff's Department said that this man, Ross, was having an affair with Shaq's wife at the time, and he believed that Shaq did hire or enlist the help of these gang members to beat this man up. He said that Shaq and his manager may face charges in the future. At this point, again, they are not charged. Take a look. Former Lakers center Shaquille O'Neal is now at the center of a courtroom drama involving sex, lies, and videotape. Shaq's friend, Dell Dog, the alleged leader of the Main Street Mafia Crips gang, is accused of directing 6 other alleged gang members to kidnap, beat, and rob this man, Robert Ross, who claimed to have a sex tape starring Shaquille O'Neal and a woman other than Shaq's then-wife, Shawnee.
It's a fascinating case.
Attorney Vincent Oliver is defending Eddie Hill, known as Lil Wes, one of the alleged gang members accused in this case. Oliver says Ross admits he tried to blackmail Shaq with an alleged sex tape.
Part of the extortion plot was that he wanted 50% of all of the proceeds of a person by the name of Ray J, who's a major rap artist.
According to Ross, who claims he was having an affair with Shaq's wife at the time, it was February 2008, after the Grammys, when the group of gang members surrounded his Rolls Royce at this Pink Dot on the Sunset Strip at gunpoint. They kidnapped him, he says, took him to a house, then demanded he bring them the sex tape. Before they let him go, they took $15,000 in cash and everything he had. Shaquille O'Neal is not charged in this case, but a letter from the LA County Sheriff's Department to a judge indicates more charges could come against the former basketball star. A homicide captain writes a, quote, celebrity who believed Ross was having an affair with his wife enlisted the help of 7 gang members to kidnap, rob, and assault Ross. The letter says the celebrity and his manager are being investigated and more charges may be filed. Again, no charges against Shaquille O'Neal at this point, but again, this investigation is ongoing. The lawyer we spoke to tonight said he believes Shaquille O'Neal will be called to testify in this case. At this point, this preliminary hearing is on hold because one of the defense attorneys is on vacation. It'll resume July 6th. They do anticipate cameras will be allowed in the courtroom. Reporting live from downtown Los Angeles, Carolyn Costello, Mary Beth, back to you.
In 2011, Los Angeles County prosecutors returned to a case that had lingered for years. Robert Stutterbox Ross would testify in February of 2008 that he was abducted and robbed, telling the court the men who took him were looking for a videotape involving Shaquille O'Neal and a woman who wasn't his wife. Under cross-examination, Ross would acknowledge that the tape no longer existed, saying it was over, it was gone. He claimed that one of the accused, James Wood Harbin, had threatened him over a dispute between O'Neal and a business associate. Investigators would introduce phone records showing a series of calls between Harbin and Mark Stevens, O'Neal's business partner, around the time of the alleged incident. Prosecutors said that those calls suggested coordination, and the defense said that it meant nothing. Ross would admit that he had used talks of the tape to pressure both men over an unpaid deal. With no recording and no independent witnesses, the case rested on his word alone. Defense attorneys would question his credibility and motive. Contradictions would surface, and within months, the entire case would collapse. And by August of 2011, the judge in the case would dismiss all charges against the 7 defendants, including Dell Dog Ross, citing insufficient evidence and conflicting statements. Ross would later file a civil lawsuit against Shaq and Stevens that was also dismissed. Legally, the matter was over, but in South Los Angeles, one of the names linked to that courtroom had already been ringing bells before that case and would ring even louder after. Dell Dog Edwards was said to grow up alongside the east side corridors of Main Street. He would rise to become a central figure within the Main Street Mafia Crip sector, and a man credited with keeping structure where most had abandoned it. The streets would describe him as steady, measured, and loyal to the principle that once defined Los Angeles street culture. But outside of that world, though, Dell Dog would found For Life Records, also called For Life Family, eventually expanding it into Mafia for Life, a lowrider and car club movement that would link music, craft, and the neighborhood's identity. It would become a network of artists and builders who kept their community visible for something beyond survival. And for those who knew him, especially in his later years, would speak to how his influence would show when resolving conflicts. He would mentor younger members, sponsor local events, while also stepping in before disputes could turn deadly. At his memorial, friends would call him a street apostle, someone who led by presence instead of promotion. On July 8th, 2015, Dell Dog would be shot near Broadway and Century Boulevard after what police described as an argument that had escalated. A rifle would be fired from a passing SUV, and he would be pronounced dead at 11:37 p.m. at just 50 years old. Memorials were said to appear within days, lowriders cruising past the block, with people speaking about him in the past tense, but their tone would be reserved for someone still present. For those that had grown up under the influence of Dell Dog, they would say that he represented a code that had mostly disappeared from Los Angeles. A belief that respect was earned through order and that loyalty was non-negotiable. And his set would keep that sense of order long after it had already faded from the rest of the city. You could look at Dell Dog as the last of a dead breed, a leader who carried the blueprint of how Los Angeles once worked when structure still existed, and when the people in or around Main Street say his name today, they don't talk about power or fear. They talk about balance and about a time when the streets still had a code to follow.